to the now we're live. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Canes Insight Daily Podcast, powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Spring is here. We got Mike Ryan in the building. I think we're on time. Peter, we good? Yeah, I started early and Pete was shaking his
Well, you didn't hop myself in.
Hop in.
I mean,
I didn't even hop in.
Yeah,
I'm all over the place.
Now
here.
we're hopped in.
Are you hopped?
Yeah, you're not even in the backstage here.
I know, man.
You're all discombobulated.
You want to start?
And we were here actually on time. No, we started on time, and we were actually in the studio on time a few minutes early. Which is,
well, we're not on our usual time. I try to shoot for lunch with Canes Insight. Thank you guys for being amenable, and I had a bunch of meetings here at our lovely studios, the Anderson Levine sponsored show that is housed in this wonderful studio. It might have been Gitmo, because I was getting tortured by a fire alarm that was going off for a good 60 minutes before we went live. And it's genuinely going to affect my performance. I can't see your face. Just can't. I don't see it.
I'm sorry.
You're just teeth.
I'm sorry to hear that. We got Issa in the building. Takes by Issa. She's out there on the side. If you're not following Takes by Issa on Instagram, check her out. One of the hottest up and coming Canes content creators there is, taking all kinds of pictures all over the place. I first met her in the searing Florida sun by herself, taking pictures at the Under Armour camp. I knew she was a go-getter, so we're trying to.
Let me pull up. I'll pull up her Instagram, and it's not just Canes stuff. It's a lot of South Florida high school football stuff. So let me pull her page up. But
yeah, we got
damn. It looks like we got some gains up in here.
I know. Well, I was surprised.
You seen the gains over here?
Yeah, man.
I gotta say, I was surprised.
The black shirt also does well.
Something.
I thought you were gonna roll with the CM Punk sides cut out, show a little lat action.
No.
Is that next show?
That's for when I'm at home, relaxing or doing 2-a-days at the gym. But this is built by Brady.
There you go.
Excellence. Tom Brady, great quarterback, even better fashion designer. So I'm ready to go. I'm excited because I've been really busy. I haven't had an opportunity to make it out to spring practice yet. I wanted to go this week. Things got in the way. It's a big week down in Coral Gables. Cam Ward, according to Adam Schefter, is going to be the number 1 overall pick.
Yep.
Now the only question seems, who is it going to be picking him at number 1? When's the last time Miami had a number 1 overall draft pick?
Russell Maryland, Dallas Cowboys.
This is, I understand the U being back means championships, and God bless everybody that upholds that standard. I think we lived enough of our adult lives that we're just craving relevancy. Let's be part of the playoff conversation. Let's matter the way that we mattered last year for much of the year, the way that we mattered with a Heisman Trophy contender. The U getting a number 1 overall draft pick, that speaks to the talent bar being raised. In 3 full seasons, Mario Cristobal came to town, elevated the talent team-wide, gave you a Heisman finalist, a guy who had knocks against him, quarterback killer, laughable accusations at this point. The number 1 overall draft pick picked Miami in a transfer portal process where he evaluated staffs and schools and head coaches, landed on Miami. Miami took that quarterback from, at best, a 5th-round draft pick, at best, to the number 1 draft pick overall, according to Adam Schefter. That is something to celebrate, and I understand the rings are what Miami's going to be judged at historically, but this is pretty cool. Even when Miami was really humming, they weren't churning out number 1 overall draft picks routinely, especially not at that position. When they were winning biggest, they didn't have pro number 1 overall guys. They didn't have many guys going in the first round at that position. Game's most important position. All eyes are going to be on Cam Ward. He's going to be the first person to hug the commissioner. I know last season didn't feel great. The ending was actually worse than the season kind of suggested it would be. This is a pretty cool moment for Miami, and I think it's time that staff, Cam Ward as a player, and even fans enjoy it a little bit. Savor the victory, because that is a massive achievement.
Yeah, it couldn't happen to a better person. Everybody loves Cam Ward. Everybody around the program loves Cam Ward. He was at practice. I saw him there on Tuesday. Yesterday, he was hanging around. Restrepo's there. Pro Day is going to be at a whole nother level. And, obviously people are going to be like, look, we wasted Cam Ward because the team did not perform as well as they should have with the number 1 pick because of, struggles on defense largely. And there's obviously merit to that. When these guys don't come around often, you want to make the playoffs, win the conference when you have a player like that. But as far as wasting him, I mean, you got as much out of him individually and as the offense as you could possibly do. So his individual talents were exploited. It's not like you had a Ferrari and you had him handing the ball off or just in some broken offense. He himself was allowed to be Cam Ward, which took him, like you mentioned, from day 3 to the number 1 overall pick. And it's something you could sell to guys like Carson Beck and the next one.
It didn't feel good because they blew a 21-0 lead at Syracuse and they didn't make it to a conference championship game. And SMU, contextually, it feels disappointing. But I'd say Miami kind of maxed out across the board. You look at composite talent ratings, the way things broke inside their conference, not being able to play some of the other teams they were competing against for a slot in Charlotte. They lost 2 games by 9 points. And I'm like that's that. Even the most bullish people, they probably had Miami making the college football playoff, but not looking like that. And I think that overall it was a really good season, and it left Miami fans hungry. It kind of let our rivals kind of pick their head up out of the dirt a little bit and maybe have one last go, because the banter advantage was not theirs all year long. But Miami keeps building, and you've been out there in practice. I'm getting encouraged by some of the information that I've heard on this podcast, seen on the internet, and just talking to you personally. It seems as though the overall talent bar, while the picture is not complete yet, has been raised yet again. Top to bottom, the conversation that we had a couple weeks ago, Pete, the floor on next season's team might be higher. Now, they don't have the unicorn number 1 overall draft pick at quarterback. Potentially they might, though, if he's healthy, because this is a guy that's been projected as that. Way greater pro prospects than Cam Ward ever had in his career up until recently. Carson Beck did his entire career. So what are you seeing out there in terms of getting the people going?
I mean, look, Cam Ward's not out there and Carson Beck's not out there. I think that's really the main thing you kind of have to say and caution people is when you lose a number 1 overall pick and then you do not have his replacement there because he's rehabbing, it's going to look different than it's going to look in August and September. So we'll see on that. I agree. That aside, talents raised, particularly trench-wise and just overall size-wise. I mean, pretty much everybody that goes to practice, that goes there a lot, talk about high school coaches, guys that know what they're looking for, they will say that the body types have increased quite a bit.
What about development?
We'll see. I mean,
that's hard to tell from this.
Look, here's what I'll say. When you talk about this draft, right, you have Cam Ward, who I think he was great before, but he clearly jumped and improved. That's something that you hear in the scouting reports. They say he improved every year. Daniel Jeremiah always talks about how much he improved every season, including this last one, which allowed him to be the number 1 pick. So there's some development there. A lot of it's Cam Ward's, to credit to Cam Ward, but he was being developed as well. A guy like Martinez certainly didn't hurt his stock in Miami. Jalen Rivers or Restrepo, those are pure developmental guys. They were not NFL guys when they were with Manny. They've developed into that, even though they signed with Manny. Arroyo, same thing. Someone who developed into what he is, even though he signed with Manny Diaz. So I'd say all those guys would be in the development category.
That's a great point. I guess Sam Brown is the only one that was probably like second guessing his decision, right?
Yeah, that was injuries. He got here late, so he didn't get a chance really to get developed. Jacoby George is another one who really developed quite a bit.
I wanted to jump in real quick because when you talk about development, D, it's not just like the coaching of the individual player, but with Cam Ward, I think what we're seeing more than anything, yes, there was an improvement in the player, but from the scouts that I talked to, the tape doesn't look all that different from the last year Washington State. What looks different is he has a whole lot better talent around him. So I think from Miami's perspective and looking at what it is with Beck this year, you're replacing a lot, but I think you can feel a little better if you're a fan saying, all right, well, I have a good idea that they're going to surround him. We don't know what it's going to we have a good idea right now. The offensive line is in a good spot. Running game, we believe, is in a good spot. Still probably need to add another weapon on the outside, but you should feel confident, I think, if you're a Canes fan, to say, look, Ward did improve, but really it was about what was around him. And looks like he's going to be the number 1 pick. So obviously he's a special talent. So let's not take anything away from him either. But I think the pieces around him, and it's not like Arroyo has a chance to go first round, but I mean, the other guys there, yes, the O-line's returning, but it's not like you're looking at a team that has like a bunch of first-round picks that he played with.
I don't think people are going to look back on this team that Cam Ward did that with, and it's going to look like, Andre Johnson's in the slot because you have Reggie Wayne and Santana Moss out there. I think to a very large degree, even though hugely talented players in their own rights, every Restrepo, hugely decorated career down here in Miami, Cam Ward brought the best out of everybody. He was not really elevated by the talent around him. He was a guy that was raising the tide that lifted all the boats. We'll see if Carson Beck can be that kind of guy. People kind of want to take credit away from him, given the amount of talent and the standard that they had at Georgia recently. But I look at that team last year, especially, and say what you will about the picks. You can say a lot about Cam Ward's decision-making too. Sometimes you press when you don't necessarily have all the talent in the world on the outside. And I think that's kind of what you saw a little bit with Cam last year. And it's definitely what you saw with Carson Beck. So if Carson Beck is just what he was last year, keep in mind, this is a mature starting quarterback that has loads of experience, has played in bigger games in his career than Cam Ward ever did. And if he even is what he was last year, Miami should be able to be in that college football playoff conversation, full stop. If he comes here and develops the way that Cam Ward did under Shannon Dawson's offense, and his talent starts getting maximized in a similar fashion, Carson Beck, and this may be rough to hear, has a higher ceiling than Cam Ward did
I don't know about that.
From a pro tool standpoint, from a hand size standpoint, from what the pro scouts were from size, from everything that has ever been written about this guy at the high school level. We're talking about a guy that was a 0-star.
Right.
That is not Carson Beck's trajectory. Carson Beck does that. He is meeting expectations. So conceivably, his ceiling individually, through all the people analyzing this, getting paid lots of money
before
to do
the year,
this.
if you asked 10 scouts, probably 9 of them would have taken
I know you want to push back.
I do kind of agree with what Mike's saying there. Not now. We know what we know now.
Yeah,
we see
he's
that
a special
Ward's
guy.
going to be the first pick. So again, that's not to take away from, but Mike is saying that
I'm not here saying right.
I will,
let me speak for myself briefly, because I don't want this to get away from me the way that like maybe the Damien Martinez thing.
Kyle's already saying stop, Mike. Can't get on board with that take. And now I've hopped in on it a little bit. So
look, Cam Ward was a unicorn. Cam Ward was special. Cam Ward made some mistakes while he played. Yeah. And honestly, one of his most elite traits was his ability to have a short memory, keep moving on, keep pushing. But from a baseline talent perspective, and that's a lot of tools that goes into this. It's not just spinning the pill. Though Carson Beck can spin the freaking pill. Like the ceiling entering last season was higher for Carson Beck. And if you want to play the results and say this guy's the number 1 overall draft pick, I understand. Hopefully what you have down here brewing in Coral Gables is a situation that they had in Norman, Oklahoma, where the next guy keeps raising the bar. Baker Mayfield, in terms of like pro skill set, probably the best guy in terms of consistency throwing the ball. Question marks.
Wait,
no. I know you're going to say Jalen Hurts. I know you're going to say Jalen Hurts. Baker Mayfield is a way more talented thrower of the football than Jalen Hurts is. Jalen Hurts does other things. Kyler Murray's a more talented thrower of the football than Jalen Hurts is. Right?
He's more talented than anything than all those guys.
Right. But they all brought something different to the table. Look at LSU's championship runs. Yeah, they did it with Burrow, but they had a lot of really talented guys at quarterback, and then they go ahead and compete for a championship with Matt Mock.
Yeah.
Miami's story kind of similar. You have guys at that talented position. Everyone says, well, next year will be a down year. That's not always the case. Guys can come into that position, surprise you. And the guy that you're counting on surprising you is a guy that entering last season was number 1 on all the mock drafts, pretty much by consensus. That was Carson Beck. It wasn't Cam Ward.
If you go by past mock drafts to me or past recruiting rankings, it's a little limited. A guy like Patrick Mahomes, you would never question his upside. He was not the first pick of the draft. He was not a 5-star prospect. His upside came from his ability, right? And as we learn more about his ability, the upside and the ceiling became a little clearer. So look, you're right totally about where they were coming in. I think Beck is a first-round type quarterback if it goes well. I think he's a playoff quarterback if it goes well. We're on the same page. But with Cam Ward's upside, my personal opinion, and Pete, you know this because we've been saving this clip for when he gets drafted. We were talking about him as a number 1 overall pick this time last year because I saw him in spring twice, and it was pretty easy to see how it was going to play out with a good offensive line. I would say this. I put Cam Ward's ceiling is best in this draft. I think Cam Ward's ceiling is the best in next draft. I don't see anybody in college that's even close. Drew Aller, give me a break. Whoever they're talking about, I don't see anybody even in the same ballpark. It's a joke.
Arch,
you have to see more. And he won't come out next year. If you put him in last year's class, we know how Jaden Daniels turned out, so it's hard to say he has more upside than Jaden Daniels. I think right now, I take Cam Ward over Caleb Williams 100 out of 100 times. Just he does everything that Caleb Williams does. He's more accurate thrower to me. He doesn't paint his nails. I just find him to be a better player. Nix, way more upside than him. McCarthy we've been talking about with him. So to me, if you compare Ward, like what we know about him now and the things he's capable of doing that other people are not capable of doing, just from a throw standpoint, the ability to elude, most importantly, I think the vision that he has, which to me is really it's like Joe Burrow-esque, his vision.
Yeah. No, I'm friends with Mina Kimes, and she touted Cam Ward's superlative vision.
Well, remember, Burrow was a basketball player. I believe he was a guard, right, Pete? Similar to Ward.
Mm-hmm.
So Ward was all-time leading scorer in school as a guard. He sees the whole field. So I think just in those categories, we know how Jaden Daniels turned out, so it's hard for me to say he has more upside than Jaden Daniels, and Jaden Daniels could run better. But I think other than that, I take him over all these guys from an upside standpoint. Knowing what we know now, seeing the whole picture, I could be wrong. We'll see. But Beck, I always use the sports comparisons. Beck to me is the third baseman. He's big. He's got a great arm. He's athletic. He'll get it done. Ward is like the combo guard that leads your team to a championship because he can set people up. And when he's got to keep it, he can keep it and do all those things. So we'll see on Ward. Last thing before we get to some of these comments, because the chat's bumping, I would say an interesting thought if he goes number one to the Titans. We know Austin Feniger, obviously a former Cane walk-on, played for the Canes, appeared in a few games, became an agent after the fact. He represented Ward initially when he was at Incarnate Word. It didn't work out. But when he signed Ward or was talking to Ward, Incarnate Word, this was back in 2020, I want to say, he texted me and he goes, I had the next Steve McNair. He goes, I got the next Steve McNair. His name is Cam Ward from Incarnate Word, and send me the video. So now full circle here in 2025, we could see him be the first pick to the Tennessee Titans. I do see the similarities, just strong-bodied guys. Obviously started off at small schools. I think he's a little more loose than Steve McNair. McNair was very much a power thrower. But obviously if he has that kind of career, he'll be happy. Stephen Aveo knows the show. He knows it's going to go off the rails, so he's getting his serious questions in now. Appreciate you. Says, D, in terms of stoutness and depth in the trenches, how do we measure up to the rest of the ACC, SEC, Big Ten? I would say offensive line, better than all of them. I'd say only Notre Dame. You're probably talking about on the offensive line, maybe Penn State, but I think Miami's better, depending how Markel Bell progresses. I like what I see from Brockermeyer. I think he's going to be really, really good just in terms of fitting what this offense needs. Super smart. All the duos and double teams, I think he's going to fit really well there with the big guys next to him. So offensive line, I think we're second to nobody, significantly better than the rest of the ACC. Defensive line, to be determined, right? You got to see how Justin Scott plays and some other guys, but I think certainly in the conversation, not like bottom of the barrel, like when Mario first got here, but those guys are pretty good.
Yeah, seeing from the chat and seeing the reaction to some of the stuff that I said, the revisionist history when it comes to Cam Ward is strong. It really is. Like you're acting like you didn't have questions about Cam Ward. Guys, I understand what the questions are with Carson Beck. He throws the football for a living and he had arm surgery. That's a pretty big question mark. Let's say everything continues to progress. By the way, I hear his recovery is going very well and he's progressing exactly where he should be. So let's just assume Carson Beck is what he was last year. That dude, that SEC championship winning starting quarterback, has less questions about him than Cam Ward entered Miami in. He flatly did. You had,
if healthy,
I'm putting that aside. I know believe me, I was in the camp of this guy throws for a living, and I hear all your Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy has a pretty weak arm. Carson Beck was known for a big arm. It's not apples to apples, okay? Carson Beck had a big arm. He had arm strength. He was accurate. It's not a guy like Brock Purdy that was winning in the margins that maybe the arm injury doesn't. I need to see it. Big question. But hypothetically, entertain me. Let's put that off to the side. Do not pretend like you were Cam Ward guys, full stop. This guy's the best. I know the quarterbacks that you guys were chasing after, the other quarterbacks that you guys maybe had in mind, the question marks because you guys didn't watch them at Wazoo, the fumbles, the one fumble a game, the lack of assertive competition. Get out of here. It's not even close. Carson Beck is a starting quarterback for an SEC championship team. He comes from a championship program. It's not the same. You can make it all about the injury, go right ahead. But what I'm saying is this is less flawed, less question of a talent historically up until that point of the injury. And if he makes a full recovery, it is not outside the realm of possibility that if he does what he needs to do on the field, that Miami can go on one of those Oklahoma Sooner type runs, which is churn out Heisman candidate after Heisman candidate at the most important position and have that translate into guys going to top the NFL draft. It's not outside the realm of possibility.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I think that's the new Lincoln Riley, which is built on the offensive line, not at quarterback, because those guys all had protection to do what they do. Got a comment from Champy here. Good of D Money to dust off the polo he used to wear in 6th grade. Get a bigger size, Filete. All right. So first of all, Champ,
I'm laughing because I know you're about to rip into him.
If I wore the polos that Champy wore in 6th grade at Gulliver Prep, or on the way to Gulliver Prep, trying to be like Jalen Rose, those polos wouldn't fit Francis Malinois. Okay. So I'm sorry that I wear a normal sized polo, as opposed to something a little baggier, like I know you used to wear before you became a 45-year-old man.
Irv Gotti polos. Like, I wouldn't be taking fashion advice from Champy, but I appreciate it either way. He's always good with the banter, and thank you for your loyal support.
And best stone crabs in the business.
Great claws. Love you, Champy.
Best stone crabs in the business. We got, let's see here. We got Kyle talking about Carson Beck here. He's saying Carson Beck didn't win the SEC in 2023. Only played a half and was losing the SEC title game in 2024. I mean, he got him to that game, and like it's not like that game was like a shootout. I would have rather had Carson Beck than what's this kid's name? Gunnar Stockton. He's average as grits.
Yeah, it's what you did to get your team there. Like they ended up winning the game. It's true. Like, yeah, you if you want to pick apart, he didn't play all 4 quarters in that game. Therefore, you don't want to give him that credit. Inside the SEC, which last I checked, is a conference of repute, and winning it is very difficult. See your point about Georgia not winning it 2 years ago? Then go ahead and poke some holes into it. But my point is, you had way more questions about Cam Ward.
So you got comments here from appreciate you, Jalen. Smash that like button, like and subscribe to this show. We got a question from Michigan Kane, who I think wins the left guard spot. I'm going to say McCoy. McCoy is really, really good. I think Matthew McCoy is underrated from people. Just his size. People look at him as a former tight end, so they kind of see him like Zion Nelson, right? This is an athletic guy.
Recently unretired Zion Nelson.
That's right. We'll see that one. That'll be interesting to watch.
That SMU game is going to have quite a bit of juice to it.
I'm dreading it already. It's just that offense is so annoying when it's rolling. It'll be a nightmare. But we got Corey Heatherman. We got a new set of DBs.
I have a story. I didn't tell you. I didn't tell you the tidbit, D. Regarding Corey Heatherman.
Give it to us.
So, had a conversation with a player this morning who said that he was in the facility late last night watching film. Said that he had a long day with school and all that, and said 8 o'clock he was in the facility watching film, and Heatherman about 2 hours in, so it was about like 10 o'clock at night. He says Heatherman pops his head in and says, "What are you doing here? Get home, get some sleep." And Heatherman ended up staying there with him for 2 hours last night watching film, and he said he was there until like past midnight with him. Talking ball, talking, family and stuff. But I thought it was a pretty cool story.
There you go. P with the drop in. I'm with it.
That gets me amped up when I hear something like that. Another thing that got me amped up is hearing that we got a real one at safety. Did you?
Oh yeah.
Mario Cristobal using that to describe one of his new talent acquisitions got me a little excited and juiced up. There's a lot of positive momentum down here.
Zechariah Poyser, if we had him last year, I think we win a game that we lose. He's just that much better than both of our safeties last year. And look, I didn't think like Jaden Harris. If you asked me in spring and camp, would Jaden Harris be what he was? I would have said no. I didn't think it'd be Cam Kitchens, but I thought he'd be way more solid than he was. So it's hard to predict, but Zechariah Poyser with the body of work he has at Jacksonville State, freshman All-America, and then seeing him here and seeing physically and athletically how he looks with the big boys, I feel very, very good about that portal acquisition, be one of the best safeties in the ACC year one.
Miami could have survived with that defense, at least. And by survived, I mean, I don't think that their ceiling was national championship good. I don't think that they were quite at that level, but could they have made it a game at Notre Dame on the road, college football playoff, first round? Possibly. If last year's defense, they were frustrated. 2 seasons ago, we had a bit of a frustrating defense, but you had players like Cam Kitchens that made impact plays. Miami last season was not just bad. They very rarely towards the tail end of the season made impact plays. The strip sack that can change momentum, the ball hawking safety, instinctually taking a gamble, but being in the right place to turn your team's tides around. You didn't have those timely takeaways either. So you didn't have anything to kind of mitigate how bad this defense was. I'm hoping with some of the new faces that are in there, not just that the scheme's going to be better with Heatherman, but some of these guys are impact players that have a nose for the football and can make game-changing plays. We didn't have a lot of that at Hard Rock Stadium last year, where the defense, we did against Duke, where they kind of turned the tide, and that was helpful, and then Miami got rolling, and you wanted more of that. And looking at that one instance, it really stuck out. I remembered it off the top of my head because it was so few and far between last year.
Yeah, we missed Cam Kitchens. I mean, and of course, with Miami has good defenses, great defenses, like 5 Cam Kitchens, but certainly could feel just the lack of a guy that make the play in the opportune time, like you mentioned. If you're looking for someone to come through for you and your case at the opportune time, Anijar and Levine Accident Attorneys. If you were someone you care about been injured in an accident, you could be entitled to significant compensation. Dial 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733. Take back control of your life.
On that note, are there any guys in the secondary flashing this special ability? Again, it's spring ball. You can't get home on the quarterback. So I imagine Emery's got less questions to answer because people aren't actually getting in on his face a little bit and getting home. But in the secondary, maybe some of that game-changing ability might be flashing. I'm hopeful. Are you seeing that skill set maybe poke its head out a little bit?
Sure. So Poyser we mentioned, right? O'Connor was the name we kept hearing during training. He looks great in high.
That's my guy. That's a tape that we fell in love with.
4 picks, taking picks to the house. He has been a little nicked up, so I haven't seen him yet. He's fine, but I just haven't seen him yet, so I can't say on that one. But he does have a lot of buzz since he's arrived. Charles Brantley, somebody who did it on tape at Michigan State. He's small. There's going to be times where he gets abused just because he's just not that big, but he does have that kind of playmaking ability to make up for some of his lack of tools. But as far as like guys that I say, these guys can be, NFL high picks. Poyser, Frederic, from what we saw last year, O'Connor, possibly, I got to see it. And then Xavier Lucas, first round corner, just because of the size and speed is so rare. I mean, I look at a guy like Eric Stokes, who got drafted by the Packers, yeah. Right, from Georgia, just because he was big and ran a 4.3. I mean, Lucas already is that. But I think Lucas may have even more ball skills and ability. He had a beautiful pick in practice one of these days where they threw a go route on him. He just ran stride for stride, located the football. So in terms of impact guys in the secondary, which we haven't had in a while, multiple impact guys, or certainly haven't used them to the best of their abilities. I think those are 3. Frederic, we saw a year, Lucas, and Poyser, where I say these guys are going to play in the NFL and be good players. And then we'll see on O'Connor when he gets healthy.
To an earlier point, when these programs get rolling, if you look at the programs that had momentum, just look inside this conference, a lot of them weren't just kept afloat by a quarterback. It's just not the case. I'm sure a lot of people thought Clemson's run was over when they lost to Deshaun Watson, and then Trevor Lawrence strolls in, highly touted recruit, but he keeps things going. Ohio State has to replace an NFL level quarterback damn near every year, and they do so with great success. So sometimes they win big with their 3rd string quarterback after the 2 pros ahead of them on the depth chart go away. I understand why some people may be fearing the loss of Cam Ward, because the way that the team was built last year, he covered up a lot of warts. That was not a team that should have been a 2-loss team. He elevated it everywhere. This is a team that could be there with the general overall talent there. So I would say that my biggest concern about Miami's ability to compete, now I know it's a tougher schedule, is Carson Beck's arm. And so far, so good. We're progressing there. I know that there's been some rumors of how much he's been throwing, some misinformation actually from bad faith FSU accounts saying like he threw interceptions when he's not even throwing. So what have you heard about Carson Beck's recovery? Because this is very clearly the elephant in the room when it comes to this player.
No worries. I mean, you don't know, right? But it's not like there's been setbacks or anything that gives you a pause.
We would certainly know if there was a setback.
Yeah, we'd know. There's no setback that I've heard of, and I think I would have heard it. So no issues there. Now I think it's a lot about finding the backup, right? Who's the backup?
That's what I was going to ask you. I'm not. I mean, listen, we only know so much on Beck. We can only expect it, the timetable to be what they're saying it is. But like, out of the guys that are there, do we feel good about anyone kind of stepping up?
I think we have to see Nickel with the better players, because usually young players, they start on the bottom and they're thrown to walk-ons. They kind of work their way up. So I'd like to see him with the starters just to see how it looks. Brad Kaya, when he competed for the job and won as a true freshman, he was with Philip Dorsett and all those guys pretty quick. So you could see him, how he actually would look in the games, and he translated, had a really good freshman year. So we'll see on that. I'd say the guy that looks the best, if you just said like, hey, I'll give you the 10 best plays, Judd Anderson actually looks the best. If you say, give me the top 10 plays of this player, Judd Anderson, his best plays will look the best. Consistency, we talked about positions, right? So Cam Ward's your guard. Carson Beck's your third baseman. Judd was a power forward, center.
Yeah, big guy. So super athletic. He can run. He's tall. Very athletic for a tall guy. Yeah, fun to watch running in the open field.
Oh, he's faster than Ward. He can run better than Ward. He can run better than all
A
those
lot
guys.
of people are faster than Ward.
Right. But he can run better than all. He can run. He's the best runner we've had.
It's safe to say that when healthy, Carson Beck's a better athlete than Cam Ward is.
Great question.
But better athlete, sometimes that's subjective. More athletic.
It depends. Again, it's like third baseman versus guard. Like, I think in a race, I think Beck could win.
No, I'm just saying you're setting yourself up, man.
I know, but look, man, there are just certain measurables that Carson Beck checks off with relative ease compared to Cam Ward.
He's faster, I think, or as fast, if not faster.
Ward's
got more arm angles.
Yeah, but this is why Cam Ward was a 0-star. Like entering, I understand, like scouts got to him, and it harkens back to a time a little bit, maybe 6 years later.
It's easier to get
taped.
But guys, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but I just want to bring this up because cultural critic saying on Judd, he says, I haven't heard that at all. I've heard Judd's been up and down throughout spring camp, but he has a great arm. D's not saying he's lighting the world on fire, but we're looking for someone to at least stick out, or at least some traits, which you mentioned the great arm. And D also just said the consistency has not been there. I don't think for any of the QBs, if we're being honest, right? But my thing is, again, if we can hang on to something there with some more development, a lot more reps to go here in spring, then there could be something there. It could be an interesting development with him.
Yeah, what I'm saying, I'm not disagreeing with what cultural critic is saying about the ups and downs. I'm saying if you just recorded the ups, he would look the best because he has just the most physical tools. But that's why I was getting to the position.
That's not how the quarterback positions play.
That's why I'm getting to the positions that they come from. I think that's highly instructive when you say, okay, if this guy was a high-level sport player in another sport, what position did he play? What sport did he play? Beck was a Florida commit as a third baseman. So a lot of the things that you look for in a great third baseman in terms of size, arm strength, athleticism, he has. Ward was the all-time leading scorer in his school as a combo guard. So the ability to kind of be assertive but also set people up and see the whole floor, he has that from all those reps. Judd is a big man. So he's got size. He's athletic. Probably the best runner we have. But, he's not a decision maker. Did not grow up making all the decisions you make when you have the ball in your hands. He's a finisher, at least from a basketball standpoint. Double-double guy. So now processing, which is pretty important at the quarterback position, is where he needs to get more consistent.
Cam Ward has such poise in the pocket. He manipulates the pocket pretty well. It's because his vision is superlative and it kind of looks effortless a little bit, the way that he moves out of the pocket. Just like if you watch that incredible throw that he had to start the season at Florida, he's kind of just veering, taking his time, still moving quickly, but he's making all the reads. It's not the way that Carson Beck does it, which is like a hard rollout and he supercharges the arm. It looks very different, but it's also a little bit more athletic. And in terms of straight line speed, like the numbers are what the numbers are. Carson Beck is faster. You can Google it. If you think 4.87 is a fast time for a 40-yard dash for Cam Ward while you're touting his athleticism, that's not exactly a point for that. All right. We're not checking that box. Cam Ward does things in game that are special that you can't really quantify. It's stuff that GM see. It's stuff that, quite frankly, Mario Cristobal, who's been around top-end talent, he said that's the best player he's ever coached. If you put Justin Herbert through the evaluation process with measurables, and you put Cam Ward through that same evaluation process, a lot more of the boxes are going to be ticked off for Justin Herbert. That's not all that goes into this. It's not like Mario didn't also coach Justin Herbert. What does he have to gain from this?
And Penei Sewell.
Like, what does he, right? He's coached great players. Like, he's doing right by his guy, but we're well beyond campaigning for a CFP spot. He doesn't have to keep doing this. You can say I've coached a lot of great players. That's not what he's doing. He doesn't have to sell. I mean, he's doing his part in selling Cam Ward, but he's not just lying to folks.
Well, he's gonna be the 1-1, which those other two weren't. So great question here from you, King God. Y'all talk about the Colorado versus Syracuse spring game. Who should Miami play? We talked about this actually on Group Chat Sports. Shameless plug. Me and Pete got a channel we're working on, which is more general college football. A lot of transactions, not necessarily kind of the big ticket stories, more about recruiting, portal additions, little the nuances of college football for the hardcore fans. This was one thing we did talk about, which is Dion said he wanted to play a spring game, kind of like how NFL does their preseason games, split practices, and then you have a game against another team.
No, I have thoughts.
Yeah, and then
I think a joint practices would be awesome.
Syracuse, Fran Brown said he'd take him up on the offer. We'll see how it goes.
I think
chomping at the bit. What's up?
I think it's dumb.
Why?
Yeah, I think
Let's
it's
go.
hugely dumb.
Let's hear it.
I think it's hugely dumb. In the pros, they say that they actually get a lot more from those practices than they do preseason games. College football doesn't have preseason games. They go up against each other. I understand how that's difficult to evaluate. Certainly for us, it would make our lives a little bit easier because anytime the offense looks good, we do the thing where like, oh, are we worried about the defense? Anytime a receiver looks good, we worried about the corners. It's a bit of a mind bleep. But also every year from when I watch NFL Network, I see all these teams fighting. And these are mature professional athletes, some of them longer in the tooth. Hell, Steve Smith has broken multiple orbital bones in the NFL. You put college kids in that atmosphere, and I think it's going to be hard to control. I think it can get ugly quick. The negatives for me outweigh the positives. I don't think it's a good idea.
It's the portal era, so I think the positive would be figuring out who's your real guys, because you got to figure out who to pay, kind of who to keep. And you're doing a lot of guesswork when you haven't seen them in game situations. I think that helps. You know, a lot of times in these scrimmages or these spring games, you'll see a guy make a play, but he'll be getting covered by, you know, somebody who is going pro in something other than football or walk on. So, you know, it's hard to really judge. Whereas here, because it's two different teams, you have less of that because you'd be going.
Hold on, man. I don't know, man. You were hyping up a walk on the website yesterday on the board. So let's not
got walk on hype.
I got that guy Owen Ruskevich.
I think it's Ruskovich. You know what? I will say he has stood out to me too. I asked our buddy Cam Gorby who it was like last week, because I was like, that's a big boy, number 44. And I didn't know much about him. I didn't really pay too much attention, but I can tell you he's a big boy.
What's his name again?
I can pull it up here.
Owen Ruskovich.
Oh, he was born to wear number 44.
Number 44 from Washington, D.C., 6'7", inline blocker, hands catcher. He's not going to confuse anybody.
I thought it was Luka Gilbert at first. Like the first day I walked into practice, I thought it was Luka Gilbert at first.
Yeah, he looks like a scholarship guy. He's again more of a role player, not going to be Arroyo, but he could be McCormick. It's possible. Shout out to Owen Ruskevich. I did the post. Ruskevich. I did the post on CanesInsight.com. 7 million posts and counting. All kinds of practice scoop on there. And if you're not there, join the discussion. It'll carry you through the summer, I promise. So important update here. So goes to Devon Donaldson, says someone needs to go wake up Juan Manuel Ventura, very active and valued member of the chat community on this show.
I see multiple emojis representing beef in there. I don't know what you're talking about.
He comes to life on these Wednesday shows. So goes to Devon Donaldson, summoned him because he wasn't available. And then here he goes. He says, oh, Cam Corby, stat boy. So here we go. We got Juan Manuel saying, hey, wave emoji, Pete, D-Money, and Ryan. Do you think, scratching the chin, also thought bubble, Carson Beck can get over a Cavender twin 2 female emojis by getting flat top 5.0 and cruising A1A, playing Vanilla Ice Cube, like Felon, picking up dimes. What's that emoji?
Salsa emoji, maybe?
A salsa emoji, female, and then female different haircut emoji.
Pete, I'll follow up Juan Manuel's question with a question to you, because you seem to be pretty opinionated. I know you were a lot on Cam Ward last year. And thankfully you were wrong to some degree.
I wasn't very
you questioned maybe his approach to the game a little bit.
I didn't do any of that. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay. I could see, look, the internet had to go at Carson Beck's first full month down here in Miami. He's had his car stolen, the high-profile breakup. I don't think any of this stuff actually matters in the field of play, but it matters in terms of social currency. And I think most people will just never want to hear a word from their quarterback until it's just like rah, fiery stuff. I know how this is landing in social media. It probably doesn't feel great to be Carson Beck when he opens up his mentions, but do you pay any attention to this at all, or does it start getting skeptical Pete going?
No, I mean, honestly, to tell you the truth, I didn't worry about the fact that everyone's like, well, he's getting caught up in the social media stuff. It's not like he was posting this stuff. It was his girlfriend. I mean, what's he going to do? I guess say no, but I didn't think anything he was doing in that sense was anything that should be like a concern in terms of the team. And then again, talking to people around, there was you can hear pretty early on, like, well, this guy is serious about his business, or I haven't heard anything that suggests he hasn't been on top of what he needs to be doing. Right. So, I mean, in that sense, it didn't bother me. The Snapchat stuff has been out there before. So, and obviously it hasn't, I mean, I don't know how much it's affected his play, but just seems to be a thing that he puts himself in those situations also, that he's got to learn, I guess.
I mean, also, if dime a dozen starting quarterback getting involved in some Snapchat thing that the internet's picked up on. Carson Beck has a higher profile than most of the quarterbacks, but trust me, you can peruse to the Canes insights of other programs and find all this stuff out there, and it's just not on our radar. It's front and center for us.
Well, and by the way, too, the car thing, like,
he's a victim.
What's he supposed to do there?
He's a victim.
I think it's really just like a series of unfortunate events and things just happening back to back here, and hopefully this is it. And it's just the next thing we hear is he's throwing, and that's the end of it, and it's football after that.
Pete, I'm so happy that you mentioned that, because I just he was asking for it because he had a nice car. Like, he's a victim. I don't understand how that's a strike against Carson Beck.
Nobody in Miami is going to penalize him for the nice car. You know, when I worked at the firm, I was one of the only Cuban lawyers. Most of the lawyers were from out of town, and pretty much to a man.
Where's this one going?
Every single lawyer from out of town drove like a Prius or something like that, even though a lot of them were making really good money. And then the Cuban secretary was driving like, a Benz. So in fact, my cleaning ladies have had better cars than me my whole life that have been an adult. So in Miami, having a nice car is not a sin. So anyways.
Yeah. And nor is it a character assessment, especially if you have that car stolen. I don't see how we're making a judgment on his character. If you want to read into an ugly breakup among a college boyfriend and girlfriend, I don't know what to tell you. Who amongst us hasn't had that happen to them? Well, me, I married my high school sweetheart,
yeah,
but
Pete,
it's fairly commonplace, and all of it is silly, and none of it will matter. It will certainly be something if his arm doesn't heal correctly. We're going to make all these things bigger than they actually are. But one thing is pretty certain. Carson Beck comes to town, and he's got a star quality about him. It's irrefutable. That guy, if you just pay attention to aggregate sites and the tiles they're putting up, it doesn't really match his relative star in terms of, and he's accomplished plenty, but in terms of like talked about quarterbacks, he's coming in with a ton of attention
and a lot of hate, which fits right in. Chip on his shoulder, hated. I love it. He's becoming more of a Cane by the day. Got a comment here from Chase Romero, who, on top of being a noted draftnik, is also one of the top stylists in Miami, Florida. Actually helped me get that double-breasted Elvis white suit for the preseason podcast last year for under $200, despite looking so, being such a show-stopping outfit. So that takes a little bit of skill from Chase's part. Says, long-time listener, first-time caller, love you guys. Do you think Cam Ward breaks Herbert's passing record? I don't think his receivers are going to be good enough.
It depends on the team that gets him. Like,
and
if he goes to the New York Giants, he has a pretty damn good receiver over there. If he goes to Cleveland, I'm a little bit more skeptical about Judy than his Pro Bowl resume would suggest, because I can't really wash off the Denver stuff. But he's going to a place with at least a bona fide number one. Statistically speaking, I think Neighbors is on another level, certainly when compared to Judy. I actually think the worst spot for his relative success, when you think about the staff and the weapons surrounded him, surrounding him is actually the team that presently holds the number one spot, which is why I'm kind of hoping that another team gets it there. As a Cam Ward fan, and also as a recovering former Cleveland Browns fan, if Cleveland gets him, quite frankly, I think it's the only way out of a very dire situation for the Cleveland Browns. That would be a godsend to a franchise that does not deserve an individual of high character and performance that of Cam Ward.
Yeah, I made a mistake. I said Vrabel's going to run. We'll talk about Tennessee Titans. Obviously, he's moved on to the Patriots, but I still think they're going to run the ball if he gets there. They've been building towards that with some of the offensive line moves that they've made.
Yeah, Chase Romero was also my stylist.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Did he pick that outfit right there?
No, he picked the outfit for, I went to the John Wick Chapter 4 movie premiere, and I was styled by Chase Romero.
There you go.
I had a tomato red suit.
You can also reach out to him if you need a medical device or two.
Yeah, that's right.
It says Sports says the Jerry is still out.
I love sports. I love it. I
ESPN
love
Sports.
sports.
There a comment here, and we haven't mentioned it during the show, D. This might be a group chat thing. Twan says that elite wide receiver coming in the spring window just entered the portal, right? So he's talking about Micah Hudson just entered the portal again, who was at Texas Tech last year, 5-star, didn't really have a great year, was injured, ends up at Texas A&M. And he had left the team already. There's already talk he's going to go back to Texas Tech. Talent-wise, a stud, but I think he had 8 catches last year and left the team already when he got there. And like a week in, 2 weeks in, I think they're going to be aiming for someone who has legit big-time productivity. Like if this was someone who had produced to a good level his freshman year and looked like mentally things were in a good place, and I don't think there'd be any doubt that Miami would be interested, but I don't think that's the case.
Bit of a red flag surrounding Hudson right now.
Big time.
So I'm not too on board with that. I got to do a little bit more digging.
Yeah, we looked at him a lot for the group chat stuff. Talented player, but I think Miami's going to go more in the direction of somebody with proven production. Because look, remember, Miami has JoJo Schrader, who's been amazing as far as what he's done.
Star quality about him. That flashes.
Schrader. Oh yeah, Schrader's coming. I'm not saying he's going to be this kind of player or this. He's not going to be this level of player because I don't know if he's as fast as the guy I'm going to say, but a lot like Ryan Williams from Alabama as far as like the aerial kind of stuff, the body control. It's just that's the type of receiver he is. Jeremiah is much more horsepower, being a hurdler, explosive. Obviously, he's got size to him.
So he's got that kind of body control because,
Ryan
Williams had like Randy Moss comparisons despite not being the same kind of physical specimen.
I'm not saying he's going to be as good as Ryan Williams. Ryan Williams, I think, ran at 10.6 or something too. So he's really fast.
Ryan Williams has amazing body control.
That was spin moves, and he's a ballerina. But traders like that. Like Trader will adjust to the ball, contort his body, score a touchdown, do a front flip. He's that kind of guy.
He kind of flashed that in the Pop-Tart Bowl that wasn't really speed. Like he was like shaking a defender off. He was using his agility, so it makes sense. And that's all tied into body control.
100%. He's a smooth operator, and he's fast too. Ryan Williams is like probably 4.3 kind of speed. I'm not sure he's there, but 4.4. Ish, and smooth and can get in and out of his breaks. JoJo Schrader flashing big time star quality. And you also look at the 3 freshmen we brought in. Plus Matt Carr's there as well. Another young guy who's made some plays. And you got the 3 freshmen. All of them look pretty good. I think that's a class they feel good about, seeing Malachi Toney in the slot, Dalen Upshaw doing a lot of really good things. Josh Moore, big boying, some experienced college corners at times. So I don't know if you want to put another young guy in the mix. I think you're more likely to get a veteran to be reliable for Carson Beck.
Well, I just want to get more game-breaking type of talents down here at Miami. A guy that, be it a punt return, a kick return, or a deep shot down the field, or an outside pitch. Jordan Lyle has a little bit of this. If he gets the ball out wide and he's got a lane, I'll come out of my seat, and I think he might be able to house this. But Miami hasn't had a lot of those guys that get you out of your seat lately and thinking like this could be something here. Let's pay attention.
Yeah, the only thing that got me out of my seat the last few years has been an opportunity to go to Islas Canarias out west. That got me all the way from Miami Beach, deep into Sweetwater. But I don't have to do that anymore because they are in Dayland Mall, the dining pavilion, conveniently located right in the heart of everything, close to University of Miami, close to Pinecrest, close to Kendall, close to Richmond Heights, close to everything. Islas Canarias Cuban Express. 7 different types of croquetas. Give me a break. All kinds of steak options, pork options, empanadas. If you're on the go, they got the cubaritos free. If you want to sit down and have a nice little lunch, They got everything. They got kids stuff. Wait, hold on. Go up. So pull up. So look, scroll down a little
just
bit.
invoked Ron Rossi in here. Slow it down.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Look at this. So they got kids bowls, and then they got the coffee menu under the kids bowl. So if you need your kid needs some coffee, they got him taken care of. He's not hyper enough. He needs a little more juice. They got the colada there.
I'll take a hoopina
for the kids bowls.
Pete, I do have some basketball questions in the chat.
I'm excited to talk basketball today.
Well, you're the most plugged in reporter on the beat. So Kane's Insight, basketball expert, basketball aficionado, you know ball, you touch wood. And on top of that, you're super plugged into this program and its staff. The questions remain. People keep asking about the Boozer twins. What is Miami going to do from a talent acquisition standpoint? Any rumors you're hearing?
Listen, the Boozer stuff, that's going to be continued rumors until they're on campus at Duke officially, right? I think you can pretty much go anywhere in Miami and people will tell you that they heard from their buddy or their boy that they heard that the Boozer are going to do this or that. And
this is a distinctly Columbus subsect of Miami.
But that's 50% of Miami anyway.
Yeah.
So that that kind of applies there. But that obviously we'll see there. I'm still from the beginning. I've said better than 0% chance, but not counting on it. And I don't think they're they're not planning. Obviously, if they get them, you build your roster around that. But they aren't putting their eggs all in that basket. I will say I was this morning as I put a big update out on the website. I was deep in the Euro market, man, and we got to talk about the Balkan Bulldog here, Harun Zedno.
The Balkan Bulldog.
Yeah, so this is a kid, Harun Zedno from Bosnia, and he's 21 years old. Was committed to Indiana. Report came out from Joe Tipton last night that Miami and Maryland were in the mix. And I got to shout out Trenton Breeze here. He's been tracking this one since last week when his agent Steven Petrovich, who I spoke to this morning, had posted a picture with Coach Lucas in the Gables and Coach Moran from Columbus. So that's not, it's not an official thing on staff yet. Obviously,
Coach Moran's hanging around a lot for a guy that's not on the staff. Huh?
Yeah, I mean, look, again, this was posted by
just
by
a big Canes fan.
Well, so yeah, I mean, I would think he would be, but so the agent is actually based here in Miami, not far from the Gables, and this is a situation where this is a kid who's 21 years old, has 4 years of eligibility. So he's someone you'd expect to come in right away to be an impact player. 6'6", 200+ pounds, average 18 points, 3.5 assists, 3 rebounds, and shot almost 50% from 3 in the Bosnian league last year for KK Slavija. So this is a guy who, again, physically looks the part, shoots a very high clip, and from what he told me, Harun told me, he said, my agent calls me and says, hey, I'm sitting on the beach right now, drinking coffee, wearing sunglasses. Like, do you want to kind of join me down here? So he's going to be making his visit soon. He has the trip set, working on the visa with his family, but he says that's probably going to be the very near future here. Maryland also in the mix. Penn State could get visits, but I have a feeling Miami's in a good spot here. And he has other clients, this agent who has, been in contact with Coach Lucas. Obviously, let's monitor that Euro market. Again, the Balkan Bulldog, Harun Zedno.
Let's keep rooting. Great update, Pete. That was phenomenal.
He can play. Let me
go some highlights.
Let me pull the highlights up. This kid is coming into. He plays with that Euro passion you're looking for. He said a couple years ago he was playing in Latvia and they had him standing in the corner shooting. He didn't want to do that. That he wanted to be a playmaker and be more on the ball. So let me pull up his highlights here.
Miami's been putting on a show from a weather standpoint this week. So let's get all the recruits, all the basketball recruits in town this week, all the young high school football players. Let's get everybody in for a visit because Miami is showing out this week.
Number one offensive lineman, number one player in the country was here. We'll talk about that in a
We
second.
can romanticize this weather and make them believe that it's like this all year round.
Here we go. He got the highlights here. And by the way, Mike, big Real Madrid fan. He says Luka Modric.
I mean, that plays.
Oh, here we go.
All this tracks. Balkan Bulldog.
So here's the other thing.
Look at him hit that
Bogdanovic.
uncontested jumper.
So Bogdan Bogdanovic, he said he didn't start playing basketball until the age of 15. Okay.
These highlights.
No, okay. But listen, no, you'll love this one. Mike. He didn't start playing basketball until the age of 15.
Look at that
Did
free
not
throw.
have any coaches. So he learned how to shoot the basketball by watching Bogdan Bogdanovic tape. That's how he learned. So we had a poster on the board, I believe it was 26, who was saying, man, this guy looks like he plays like Bogdanovic. The form looks the same. It's because that's how he learned how to shoot the basketball.
I am actually learning something by the uncontested free throws, and that his form is consistent. If he's standing alone in a line, uncontested from the 3-point line, or has a hand in his face, that is a very consistent jumper. That's something that you like to see. These are very short people he's going up against.
He's not afraid.
And these passing lanes are a joke.
A little Drazen Petrovic, perhaps, maybe just with some of the contested shots.
That would be the dream. But I mean, this guy, he's 21 years old right now, so he'd be coming in with 4 years of eligibility, and that's what his agent was telling me is that, look, the resources over here in terms of the facilities and the weight rooms, the coaching, all of that is, and then obviously the NIL money they're going to be getting paid more money here than they would be playing overseas.
I had $400 on this game.
I mean, listen,
he does have a good looking shot.
If I would have seen his highlights before this, I would have also.
I don't know. You can't bet against Orlavic Nancy.
Well, certainly not on the back end of a back-to-back, as I found out that day. But look, it's a good-looking shot, and look at the hops right there.
And again, committed to let's.
Yeah, he's committed to good programs.
Committed to Indiana, and Maryland wants, like, Maryland's the other school in the mix. This is not. It's not like this is an under the radar gem that nobody knows about. He's not your.
Is that still him? He looks way shorter now.
Yeah, it's him.
Did he have a growth spurt?
You know how? Listen, he was playing in Latvia, came back home, probably was used to the food back home. But no, this
looks like a completely different player in this highlight now.
Bosnians are tough as nails.
Yeah,
look at that there.
The Balkans don't play, man.
Yeah, that's why he's a bulldog.
Croatia. If you look at a map of Bosnia, Pete, pull up a map of Bosnia and Herzegovina.
Oh, let's get into the good stuff here.
Pull a map of.
I feel like he's about to start. He's percolating a little bit. He's about to do one of his trademark things.
Well, I don't know what ethnicity this young man is. I know a Bosnian started World War I, but he was a Serb ethnicity. So I don't know the whole story here on what he is. But that was how World War I started, with a Bosnian Serb. Gavrilo Princip gave the name to a band that you like, Franz Ferdinand, right? When
I do love Franz Ferdinand.
So, I'm pulling up the Bosnian.
So this is why I think this guy's going to have a little edge to him.
I think where he plays is Sarajevo. Okay. I'm pretty sure that's
Sarajevo. There's a history. It's been a war-torn area, unfortunately, for many years. Better lately, but look at this coastline for Croatia. They took the whole coast. Oh
yeah, I've seen this aggregated on like IG tiles.
This reminds me of some of my buddies when we play a game called Sid Meier's Civilization 7. That's a whole other story for another day.
Like one little sliver of beachfront in their country, and Croatia hog the rest for themselves.
These Croatians are chilling on the beach. These guys are out here putting in work, working on that shot, learning how to shoot on YouTube. That's what, if you're at the beach, you're not going to be learning how to shoot on YouTube. So, shout out to, what's the guy's name, Pete?
Harun Zedno. The Balkan Bulldog.
That pronunciation is unbelievable. I can't wait till this guy. We got to get this guy.
Any other staff updates potentially?
I think we'll start getting them after this week here, because the tournaments
guys are going to the tournament.
Yeah, I think Bruiser Flint from Arkansas and was formerly at Kentucky will be someone on staff.
I've been on good authority that there's a lot of big time schools and assistants that are circling around what's going on. Coral Gables right now.
Someone reached out to me yesterday that I don't know if you sent him my way, that from someone from a big program that a lot of people respect. Some people are interested in coming to work for Coach Lucas.
Yeah. D, I want to ask you and Pete this, because it seems like we do this every year, and this year the narrative was a little bit more deserved, I think. But as from when Miami made its run to the Final Four, everyone keeps trying to put dirt on this ACC basketball grave. And yet when I look around, they keep telling me SEC is where basketball lives now. I see ACC teams making deep runs, and the narrative, I don't follow ball. My team was bad. I barely went to the games, but I was told that North Carolina shouldn't have been in this tournament. And then they did what the ACC tends to do in this tournament, which is shut people the hell up. When are people going to stop doing this to this conference when it's March?
Just means more. It just means more. I mean, certainly happened last year. Pete, I don't know what your view of this whole situation is. I hate seeing the SEC being good at basketball. That's the one thing they never were good at, aside from Kentucky. So,
I mean, they've poured so much. There's so many great coaches in the conference now. Really, they've made the investment on that side of it as well. I think they're starting to get overrated the way they are, kind of bloated in a sense in the rankings, that it just, you lose a game and it really doesn't matter because there's so many ranked teams, and it's like, well, they lost to a ranked team and they have this many wins against ranked teams. I don't know. It's kind of the same thing I think we see in football to a certain degree. But
so Martin Dubé saying the Croatian coast is beautiful. I have friends who come to Botswana, which is where Martin is, as refugees 35 years ago. They own a coastal home up there. First of all, nice come ups to go from refugees to owning a second home. But that'd be a hell of a life, man. You're living in Botswana and then you're going to Croatian coast for vacation. I thought snowbirds out here were balling. That's the life. Pete, that sounds like your kind of lifestyle.
Wasn't King's Landing from Game of Thrones filmed in Croatia?
Was indeed. Yeah. It was indeed. Sports says he's moving to Croatia. We're a Bosnian podcast right now.
We have a mutual friend, Leo, my daughter's godfather, that vacationed in Croatia and did all the beach stuff and just loved it. They just had
what is it,
the praise for it. Is it Split?
Split, I think that's Split. Split's where a lot of people go. Is it? Let me see what the name of the other place is. Is it? Well, that's the club is Hajduk Split. Yeah.
Well, he did the King's Landing thing at his social media posts from when he was out there looked wild. I didn't know Croatia. I wasn't all that familiar with your beachfront game, so it's but I'm excited about the Balkan Bulldog. I'm pretty sure those were two different people. One was a foot shorter when he was wearing the dark jersey, but maybe that's just my eyes playing tricks on me. But that shot is pure. It's a good-looking shot.
We need more shooters like that.
Indiana and Maryland, these are big-time programs with loads of prestige attached to them in basketball. And if he's already been photographed in those uniforms, earlier commitments, this is obviously a really good player. And I hope Miami gets him because Miami's got a lot of roster spots to fill. Let's be honest here. Is there anyone that you think is going to stay, Pete? Any surprising names that stay? I know that players are entering the portal. We've seen players.
We've only seen that. Technically, we've only seen one person enter the portal, which is Swartz, right?
Right, and he could still conceivably come back.
Yeah, I don't think he's gonna. I think him entering that early signifies that he completely has made up his mind. I think these other guys, if wanted back and do accept their role, are just trying to figure out what they want to do for sure now.
Bethea is one that I have the questions about.
Bethea, that one's just too much of a wild card for me to guess, honestly, one way or another, because he's not NBA ready, which we understand. But things were really bad for him here this year, from what I understand. I don't think it was the smoothest year, on and off the court. I think anyone who went to the games, not just watch on TV, could see the body language wasn't great. But I think he chose Miami because he really did like Miami as a program.
I've seen him at football games. I've seen him at basketball games.
And he's from what we have, us have been around him in our limited ways. You interviewed him, D. It seems like a good kid,
he was great.
Right? And I think maybe with different sort of coaching, a different voice, maybe he says, you know what? I like Miami. They want me. Let me try to get it right here with some more talent around me. You would think, or talent that you would want to play with. Obviously, he chose Miami in the first place, so he thought there were some guys he wanted to play with. But the portal stuff that was out of his hands last year too, right? He came here, you didn't know who he would already sign once you end up putting that team together, right? So the guy that I keep looking at is AJ Staten-McRae. That's really interesting to me because I think he could be of value for this team as a role player. Paul Jobay, I would take him back as a guy with length and took a big step forward, I think, this year. But does he see a place maybe that he wants to go and continue, maybe get a bigger role? I don't know that that's going to happen at Miami with what we expect to bring in. Could he be a role player? Yeah, but he's got to accept that. Sometimes these guys, you get to year 3, he's getting to year 3 now. You say, look, I took a big step. I want to maybe go somewhere where they let me continue to grow my offensive game, maybe. And I'm not saying it can't happen here, but those are probably the things that he's weighing.
What else do we have on the Miami Athletics docket? Baseball, big series coming to town, right?
Huge. Big one yesterday against FAU. Looked dicey for a second, blew a lead, ended up taking it, which was just a hugely important game for the baseball program. Now you go into the FSU week, which, look, let's be real, FSU, they look to me like the best team in the country if I'm just looking at their roster, seeing how some of the freshmen have emerged, and then, of course, some of their upperclassmen, including Jamie Arnold, who'll be pitching here on Thursday. Number 1 overall pick projected this year, left-hander dominant. It's going to be tough. Their lefties are just completely unhittable this year. Miami has a lot of left-handers in the lineup, so it's kind of a tough matchup for a team that struggles to hit anyways against the better teams, at least to this point. So we'll see, man. The flip of it is it's a great opportunity. You take this series as the Hurricanes. Now the vibes have totally shifted. You're back on the offensive. People are feeling good again. You've done it at home in front of your fans. So we'll see. Huge series for Canes baseball. They cannot get just kind of mollywop. That would be
cool.
very, very.
Do we
have
to do a live read for tickets here? Because I
yeah.
don't want to be negative, and then you do that, and I always make it awkward for you. Because I never have a good thing to say about the baseball program. Really, I'm just like, oh, well, this one's big for the manager. Hopefully he gets it, and then he doesn't get it, and then we're like, okay, how long are we going to do this? So I'll give you an appropriate break between now and when you have to do that read.
The reads, no problem.
I will say, from a game day atmosphere, family friendly, those milkshakes are killer. Look at this weather we're having, huh? There is nothing like that atmosphere at the Light. In the history of college baseball, one of the more fun environments out there, one of the more prestigious environments out there. It's always a good time, even when your team's getting its brains bashed in.
Canes fans, this Thursday at 7 p.m. kicks off a 3-game series with one of our biggest in-state rivalries. Miami Hurricanes baseball faces off against the FSU Seminoles. Don't miss a pitch or a milkshake at Alex Rodriguez Park at Mark Light Field. Thursday at 7 p.m., Friday at 8 p.m., Saturday at 7 p.m. A little different. Remember, we start on Thursday for the series, not on Friday. All the games at night. Get your tickets now at MiamiHurricanes.com/baseball. That's MiamiHurricanes.com/baseball.
And as you know, the Mark Light Shake guys, they always do a special shake kind of honoring either the opponent or the town that they're coming from. I don't know what they plan on doing for Tallahassee. I assume it's a 1-story brick building that was built in the 1940s that has long since been rusted. But I don't know how you put that in a shake. But
they made the Philly cheesesteak work. So
if we're doing it based on the FSU football program, I would think maybe like a nice dulce de leche base, and then like on top, like just like dog crap on top of the base. They always put the little flavor on top. That would probably, I think, accurately describe the state of the football program. You saw Mike Norvell say that no spring practices. Do you see that?
Was that Coach Norvell or Coach Malzahn that said that? Who's calling the shots over there up in Tallahassee? People want to know. There's all sorts of questions as to who the real Corch is in Tallahassee. Is it you, Corch Norvell, or is it you, Corch Malzahn? Who's calling these shots? Because I know how media friendly Corch Norvell is usually. This is a different approach. Maybe the milkshake is compota for all these babies up there.
There was a think piece on Knowles 247.
I don't know how much thinking was going on. What'd they say?
Well, surely these Corches are hitting the trail hard, at least, and elevating the talent disparity that was evident nationwide, right? They're surely addressing this.
I was cracking up about, they said there was a theory that they want to protect their bench players from getting rated by other teams. I don't know if it's all like Middle Tennessee State, or like who's rating.
Well, I'll say this. I think it was Brennan Sonnen who wrote the article. I read it yesterday. To his credit, near the end of the article, he said, look, I'll say that this has happened before, and it usually doesn't mean good things are coming for the team.
Johnny Lagoon has a good one. Vanilla with circus peanuts, extra sprinkles for the clowns that they are, but they do famously have a circus program.
They do.
My little cousins-in-law, they go to that clown school over
really?
there. Yeah, it actually does. I think it got like a devastating blow. A lot of like the windstorm just destroyed it over there.
Well, it's a tent, so it's hard to.
Yeah, as Dumbo taught us.
Yeah, my cousin was in the circus. He met his wife in the circus. He did the hanging thing.
Their parents met in the circus too.
Did they really?
Yeah, I guess
He says the circus is like a jam. It's like very. It's like libertines, you know what I mean? It's like a wild atmosphere in the circus culture, especially the old school circus people.
Yeah, like mad horny.
That's what he said.
Mm-hmm.
there were a lot of Ukrainian and like Romanians in the circus.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know,
A lot of Balkan bulldogs.
A lot of Balkan bulldogs in the circus. Probably neither of those places are in the Balkans, but
I know.
We'll move.
No, we're just
you can you can have the mentality of a Balkan. That's what I do.
Guys,
I mean,
we're painting
dude,
Eastern Europe with a broad brush here for comedy.
when I play soccer, I get into the mind of a Balkan defender.
Yeah, look,
a no-nonsense Balkan center back.
If you're from Eastern Europe, you can get casted as a John Wick bad guy. That's what we're talking about.
I don't know what that means.
Someone just said Micah Hudson is visiting Miami. Let's see. This is all broke when I was on the show.
Wide receivers from Texas A&M. I don't know what their vetting process is over there. They just always seem to have some issues.
I haven't seen that. I don't think he's visiting.
I liked Evan Stewart a lot as a talent too, but then you do some digging and Evan Stewart's like kind of all over the place a little bit. Look, here's all you need to know. Concepcion picked Texas A&M. They got a type. And I'm as big a Concepcion fan as there is, as this chat will tell you. Do you want to do music? You want to do wrestling?
Let's do it. Hey, what do you think, Issa? Issa's checked out. Issa was here to learn about the way to do a proper show. She saw us start late. She saw us completely miss a million leads, and then she's moved on now to check in her Instagram page in the corner. So Issa, what do you think? Wrestling or music next? All right, so we're going to music here. So Mike, let's start us off here.
Good, because I got so much more on wrestling, and I haven't even had the opportunity to really go over John Cena's heel turn with D on.
We didn't got over that.
We haven't really gone over that.
Yeah.
We touched on it. Remember, you joined in progress, and I had the heart out.
True.
Got a little bit more time today.
Let's go.
My song of the week is one of my favorite bands. I got a Deftones tattoo right here. I don't know if you can see it. It's the White Pony album. You put that logo on there. Love this band. This band's been around for 30 years. Not many people know that.
I found out today.
Yeah. When I was a teenager full of angst, White Pony was there for me. Deftones are, I guess they get lumped into that nu metal thing, even though they kind of predate nu metal. But yeah, they did kind of hip hop influence, I guess. They were of that time, but they transcended the genre in that they're bigger now than they've ever been. A lot of that's due to TikTok. People of younger generations have discovered the song Change, Now Flies, and rediscovered their entire catalog. A lot of their favorite bands, they cite the Deftones as an influence. Chino, Skinny Chino, which is big because that guy fluctuates in his weight wildly. He's been skinny Chino for a while. Usually Skinny Chino indicates whether or not you're gonna have a good performance.
Yeah, I was gonna say, who's better, Skinny
Chino? You don't want Fat Chino. Fat Chino is very hit or miss.
I'll tell you, Elvis, Skinny Elvis is always better for the performance aspect, but Fat Elvis actually had a better voice, more operatic. So I don't know if that happens with Chino. The voice gets a little more power.
Fat Chino, Chino moves around a lot on the stage. And so when he's carrying the extra weight, he doesn't really change, you know? He's always going to put the same kind of energy, and it's a matter of whether or not his frame can handle it. Skinny Chino, even though he's now in his 50s, he can handle it. And the last few times that I've seen them, it's a tough type of music. Like his vocal stylings, it's not easy to replicate live, and they do it. Skinny Chino can handle that. They're actually playing Sunrise on Saturday. I will definitely be there, possibly in the pit. I love this band. White Pony is one of my favorite all-time albums, immortalized forever on my chest. And this song is Passenger. Chino is not the greatest vocalist, but if you watch them live, he does a really good job replicating Maynard from Tool, who joins in on this song uncredited. He's a featured artist in this song. And you could kind of deduce that the passenger in the car is someone's evil side, the demon on their shoulder. And it's a nice little narrative. I picked this one because I understand Chino's vocals stylings could be a little bit grating. So I wanted, because I know you often listen to my offerings here, I wanted to put a vocalist over there like Maynard that is probably a little bit more palatable for your styling. So I wanted to give you this song, and also it's an easy story to follow. But My Own Summer, Shove It, Change, Knife Party, RX Queen, Elite. This band has so many albums, so many great songs. Every album that they come out with at least has 3 absolute bangers that you can't wait to hear live in concert. They still bring great energy, and now they are finally headliner status at festivals, which was something that always eluded them. They kept plugging away. Their music aged with grace, which is hard for someone that really popped in the early 2000s in rock music, because it's a pretty crappy era for music. This band stands a test of time by the sheer fact that they're here and they're bigger than they've ever been, and they're going to play a sold-out arena, home of the Stanley Cup champions on Saturday. Can't wait to see them. Seen them over a dozen times in my life. One of my top 5 favorite bands. I actually discovered them because on the LimeWire days, the illegal,
of course.
So I was like taking 47 minutes to download a Deftones song, and he did a cover of Weezer's Say It Ain't So, and that's how I discovered Weezer, which is another one of my favorite bands because Chino covered Say It Ain't So, and then it unlocked a whole world because Weezer was a huge influence on it.
I didn't get to hear this song because you put it on late, so I've been listening to it on the way home. I'm just excited. I'm happy because, people always say Cubans are racist because everybody looks somewhat Asian as a baby. They call them Chino. But now I'm learning the Mexicans do the same thing.
Oh, absolutely.
So I'm feeling all right about it. They used to call me Chino when I was a kid because I had the black straight hair.
Yeah, the Chino, for whatever reason, that we haven't gotten around fixing that one. That
I know like 7 of them.
Yeah, I don't think we're ever going to stop that. So, but yeah, they've been around for a very long time. I think they formed as a band when they were like 12. Tragedy has hit this band before. Members have passed on, bad car accidents. They've had a bit of a revolving door since then. But one thing remains the same. As long as you have that front man with that energy, with those very signature vocals and a thunderous drum and just really catchy guitar riffs, that sometimes it sounds noisy, but it's not. It especially White Pony, which is just an absolute masterpiece, start to finish. Kind of like Radiohead with balls is how I would describe that, Pete, which is really right up your alley. I love the Shannon Sharp that you're giving me in the background. Makes me feel really good. But it's a band that I'm hugely passionate about, and I wanted to give them love because they're in town this week.
Is the White Pony Club
not
more angsty and less attractive people than the Pink Pony Club?
Pink Pony Club is a very different place entirely, but I sing them both at the top of my lungs.
There we go. I'll check this one out. By the way, if you want to check out the Canes Insight podcast, the Canes Insight podcast playlist, we got a better name for that. Canes Insight playlist. We got it on Apple Podcasts. We got it on Spotify. Just write Canes Insight into either one of those. It'll pop up and you'll get Mike's songs, my songs will come together and get you a little musical journey here. I think Pete's going to start joining us soon because he's expanding his horizons.
Well, I heard Well, Pete actually sends me like the most hipster stuff that I get.
He's on a whole nother level.
It's crazy. Yeah, his scouting network.
His
scouting network is robust and deep.
I asked about Rick Ross. He's like, I'm kind of past that phase. I'm into
like
more.
I said, I'm deep in the Euro market. We go down to West Africa sometimes. It's
Scuba Steve is saying Will Wade to NC State. Is that confirmed?
Yeah, that's the report. So
that's a good hire.
Oh, ACC battle right there. So with my song of the week, it's been a lot of talk about like the JFK files. A lot of these things kind of coming to the surface. All these conspiracy.
Did you know he was shot in the head?
I heard that.
I did. I found that out.
I saw a GIF of that.
Like, wow.
So, this has been something that it's the conspiracy theories, InfoWars, all the stuff you kind of hear about now. I've been on that since I was in 7th grade as a fan of the Wu-Tang Clan. They've been putting us on to all this stuff for many, many years. Behold a Pale Horse, all that kind of stuff. I've been up on this. So hearing it come to the surface remind me of one of the most paranoid rap songs ever. One of my favorites, Fourth Chamber off the classic album, Liquid Swords. GZA is the person who made the album. Like any of these early Wu-Tang Soul albums, it's everybody plus RZA on the beat. You had RZA on the song as well. Ghostface, Killah Priest, not officially a Wu-Tang member, but someone who contributed some of the best verses in this period. He got out of jail and devoted himself to just reading the Bible every day. And he's not even Christian. He's I believe 5%er, but just reading it every single day just to get his vocab up. So he was coming with words and references to Solomon that you never even could think of. Opening line of this song, I judge wisely as if nothing ever surprised me, lounging between two pillars of ivory. So coming with that Old Testament style to him, this song is incredible. I didn't realize the sample on this song was actually it comes from a Hindi version of The Godfather, which was actually filmed in Afghanistan. So the music is Afghanistan mixed with Western music. I didn't know the sample story until I prepared for this show. Dharmatma, loosely based on The Godfather, inspired by the life and times of the king of Matka gambling, Ratan Khatri. And anyways,
That was a quality
Yeah,
right
so,
there.
So
We got the
I'm just
support from
surprised
Pete.
you had never heard of Afghani Wood.
I had not heard of Afghani Wood. I've not heard of that, but it's going to be my new wormhole. But this song right here samples that, takes it. It's just crazy paranoid, crazy. Just the energy is, they smoked a lot of dust back in those days, which is PCP.
Yeah.
So it comes across a little bit in the music. This is a peak. Liquid Swords, one of the best. If you haven't checked that out, check it out. 1995. Issa, when were you born?
Don't
2002.
even, if you started with a 2,
never even
just
seen the
don't
Canes.
answer
Never
the
even seen the
question.
Canes be good.
Don't ever do that.
Sadly,
Hey,
but Chamber.
Can I ask you a question? Do I need to walk back the Carson Beck, Cam Ward stuff? Do I have to the end of the show to do it? Because I could see people got a little hot by me pointing out
Listen,
measurables
we
wise.
have almost 1,000 live right now, so it must not have scared people away too badly.
But should I have not said, yeah, look, Cam Ward was great. He's the number 1 overall draft pick. But if all things are equal and Carson Beck's healthy, the measurables are clearly in Carson Beck's favor and more traditional type of a quarterback that GMs would gravitate to. That's what I was trying to say. And I certainly, it was a breakdown in communication because I didn't convey it because people got emotional.
I mean, I think it's a fair point. I haven't disagreed with anything you've said.
Okay.
I'm also not going out of my way to staunchly catch your back on it, but I'm not gonna go against it.
No, I just let me know where my blind spots are. I want to avoid another Restrepo Concepcion, another Damian Martinez, where my take might be too hot and might be too wrong. So you let me know. I can see. I'm mostly worried about whenever he gets that smug look on his face when I start making takes about talent evaluation, because he knows ball better than I do. But do you disagree? And my communication was bad.
No, I mean Pete made the same point. On the show. I hear you in terms of on paper going into the season. I'm just saying, don't just upside by what the person's rank was or what their mock drafts have. And the upside is the crazy throws that we saw him make all year. So I think Cam Ward's upside is higher because he's proven to be more talented with more exposures. But what you're saying about at the same time coming in is not wrong. It's right.
You grinded the tape though. Carson Beck can make some crazy A throws.
So he made a throw against Tennessee. So if you guys are wondering about Carson Beck and the upside that he brings, I would strongly recommend check out Carson Beck against Tennessee. Just go to YouTube, right? Georgia offensive line versus Tennessee. That shows all the offensive plays on YouTube and a nice cut up that's easy to watch. And watch Carson Beck's throws in that game and watch his running in that game. And you'll see why Miami is so excited to have him. And the things that allowed Cam Ward to go from 4th, 5th round to 1st overall, they're still here to help Carson Beck get to that next level. He needs his Restrepo. Restrepo Arroyo, that's hard to replace.
Yeah, I was going to say,
he
might be losing his first-round tight end. I don't know if they have that right
Trader, I'll give you a hot take right now, Pete. Trader will get drafted higher than any receiver on last year's team.
Now, I agree with that.
Arroyo could be drafted higher than him. Arroyo's going to potentially a first-round pick, and then Restrepo is a college player, is an All-America, so you got to judge him on the college stuff. So we'll see if that can be replaced, but I do think Trader and then Lofton too.
Yeah, Lofton's the best player on the team, according to some.
I'll say that all day. Lofton, to me, is the best player on the team. He's not going to get drafted as high as Francis Mauanoa. He's not going to get drafted as high as Carson Beck if he has a healthy year. But as far as playing football, doing everything on the field, Elijah Lofton, best player on the team from what I've seen in practice. And that goes back to last year. The guy is just, every time you watch him, he's either running the ball, knocking people out, blocking, or making one-handed catches. He's a freak of nature.
Speaking of knocking people out, my wrestler of the week was famous for doing this in the ring. One of the most athletically gifted big men in the history of professional wrestling and one of the scariest monsters. This guy made his entrance in WCW, and it legit scared little stingers everywhere. And I've shown you a picture. I was a little stinger.
You were a stinger all the way.
I was a surfer sting guy all the way, and Vader was
terrifying. Hold on. Say his name right. What's his name?
Big Van Vader. Vader once again went to WWF, and they just totally ruined him over there. Look, a lot of people did not like Vader. Recently, a wrestler of the week that I had was Ravishing Rick Rude, and he was a legit tough guy because he could just stand toe-to-toe and trade shots with Vader, and it earned Vader's respect. Vader was in the ring. He power-bombed Cactus Jack on the outside where Cactus Jack lost his ear. He's broken several ribs, popped eardrums. Guys flatly did not want to work with Vader because of how stiff he was in the ring. But in terms of believability, and I know you're big on this, scary guys that can convince you they would kill you in real life, Vader was one of the original monsters. Great mask too, great look, terrifying. On the mic, he didn't have to say much, was partnered up with Harley Race, who did a lot of the talking, and that was a good manager monster pairing.
Did he have Cornette for a minute?
He did. He always had to kind of have a mouthpiece because as a character, Vader time was a little limited. Those that were fans of Boy Meets World may recognize him as well. That's probably one of the things that he's most well known for. A huge star in Japan too. A lot of the stuff you have to really search the internet for to see like how agile he was able to be in the ring. And I know now athleticism and science, sports science has gone next level, but this guy with the Vader bomb and the believability of his strikes, in part because he was legitimately striking guys as he was doing this guy was a monster. It's a shame he was never, I know he was in WWF championship programs and he was a really good guy for Shawn Michaels to work with, and Shawn can make anybody look good, but it's a shame that he never reached the heights here in the United States of WWF champion. I know posthumously a WWF Hall of Famer. This guy was awesome. And I always saw him through a child's eyes, and he was always scary with that mastodon mask that he would walk to the ring with.
No question about it. Former guard, All-American guard at Colorado, University of Colorado Buffalo. So accomplished football player. And I remember when he came to WWF, I was like worried about the baby faces, right? They had to deal with this guy when he came over. He was
these
scary.
Undersized baby faces at the time in WWF. It was gonna be scary Vader time.
But yeah, I never got over the hump. I don't know why at WWF it never happened for him. But,
it's a strange era that he jumped in, and then like he hung on like past the Attitude Era a little bit, and his character just did not mesh at all with that era.
Yeah, bad timing with him. I remember a match he had with Shawn Michaels. I didn't realize at the time. I watched it later where he blew a spot and Shawn Michaels kind of threw a fit in the ring, and not knowing that it happens, it looks pretty unprofessional. But,
he literally kicks his legs like a child.
But he was fun to watch, man. Yeah, you mentioned the stiffness. Some of his matches with Ric Flair, right? They were out there throwing down. WCW for him, for sure.
That WCW era where he was the main baddie. And I think was he the person that did the job to Ron Simmons? I can't remember, but he elevated the talent. Like he made Mick Foley's career by building the legend, even though it was unfortunate what happened with Mick Foley. Everybody was scared of this guy legit in real life. I would go back that era that Rick Rude was in WCW and Vader was at the top of his game. There were some really, really good matches. WCW wasn't the biggest game in town, and this was before Hulk Hogan came over there and kind of changed their model, but they put out some really good cards.
One of the last White Leons, by the way. Leon White, RIP to Big Van.
Leon
Vader.
Draisaitl.
Who's
German that plays for the Edmonton Oilers.
Great player.
I know you're a big Oiler guy.
Yeah,
big puck guy. I feel our guy Scuba
I'm really
Steve's been in the comments
I'm more of a McDavid guy than anything.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah,
I know Scuba Steve's been hot in the comments. He wants to know where there's some good Panther discords,
dude.
and more,
Scuba Steve,
and more Cats talk on the.
I got the Levitard show to do that. I'm actively trying to ignore that. I don't want to bring it to the screeching halt. But yeah, playoff time's right around the corner. I promise. More puck talk. I promise.
There you go, Scuba Steve. You got that. So for me, wrestler of the week, passed away 3 years ago this past week. Scott Hall. To me, when you had the conversation of who, we thought Rick Rude, right? Kurt Hennig, what Intercontinental champion, Jake the Snake, should have been heavyweight champion.
Dude,
really
great shout.
This is the one, because he's 6'7". He easily could have been a main eventer. Honestly, when I think back now with not a child's eye, but kind of looking back as a grown up, who still believes but can look with a more analytical eye, he sold probably too much. He would sell like crazy, even though he was huge. He should have just been like no selling and destroying guys.
People think that the main reason that like we're all these great world-class sellers, the Kurt Hennings, like the Dolph Zigglers, they would swear like there's a ceiling to that. You make guys look so good in the ring that you kind of hold yourself back.
Shawn Michaels and Ric Flair are the only two.
Yeah. Razor, he was on a trajectory. If he would have stayed put, I'm pretty sure he would have been a WWF world champion. But then he was a part of a tag team in WCW. And by the time he started getting his solo shots, all the steam was let out and he kind of wasted the prime of his career in the tag team division.
Well, I'll say, you talk about cultural stealing. I've never heard a Cuban complain about Scott Hall or Al Pacino and Scarface, both beloved fake Cubans.
Absolutely. They get the pass. They get the pass from the Cuban people. Razor Ramon is a Mount Rushmore Cuban, even though he was played by a white American dude by the name of Scott Hall.
Yeah, so great gimmick. R.I.P. to Scott Hall. I heard he got it a little better down at the end, but he was just so beat up from all the years of abuse. It was hard. Talk about stunner cells. I know The Rock is famous for his stunner cell.
Well beyond his prime. That it was, in retrospect, a very disappointing match for Stone Cold Steve Austin in the WrestleMania that was in Sky Dome, remembered for Hogan versus The Rock, but an all-time sell job from Scott Hall, who for a bigger guy is one of the best sellers in the history of the business, if not the best.
And great match with Shawn Michaels, obviously 2 ladder matches. The second was a little botchy. The first one was the best.
Yeah.
It's amazing. When you go back and watch that match, it's similar to I think of Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero on Halloween Havoc, one of my top 5 favorite matches. You go back and you're like, all right, well, that was an influential match in terms of making the lucha style popular like it is today. But when you go back and watch it, it's really not like how it is today. It's very physical, very believable. The spots were timely, but they weren't nonstop choreographed. Same thing with the ladder match. When you go watch the ladder match with Shawn Michaels and Scott Hall, it's not like they were flying off ladders the whole match. It was a lot of it was the ladder being used as a weapon, right? So it's a very physical, believable match that just happened to have a couple high spots with the ladder. I think that's what's missing. If it's all sizzle, no steak, the sizzle loses its effect. But if you have a substantive, physical, believable match, and then you throw in some sizzle, it's that much more powerful. So shout out to Scott Hall, one of the greatest. And we've had comments here in the chat, multiple and offline. I have people stopping me in the street. My wife and my brother-in-law asked me, what is Pete going to do this week for his wrestler of the week? It is the most anticipated segment in Kane's media
and
right now.
In professional wrestling at this point. Everybody in wrestling circles, indies and in the big show, they want to know if they get to be Pete's wrestler of the week.
So with Rory McIlroy winning the players, Rory's from Northern Ireland, but I'm going with the Irish theme here. Finn and Balor, man. we got to go with Finn. I'm a big alter ego guy, right? That's kind of a thing of mine if you know me. Love the guy. Really do. Hate to see what's become of him lately. Biggest star in New Japan, champion 3 times out there. Leader of the Bullet Club. To being champion of NXT, and I fell in love with him here. Both the Balor Club, the Demon King gimmicks. No, that's not how we say it in East
the
Germany.
Traditional Gaelic.
So, got his shot with the big boys and beat Seth Rollins to become the first Universal champion, but got hurt and had to give up the belt. It's do or die right now. It's a shame. Demon King, one of the best entrances of all time, but it's sad to see what's become of him.
Yeah, I'm a big alter ego guy.
Yeah, I agree with you. One of the bigger what ifs, because he would have been given a little bit of a run with the Universal title, and he's never.
We talk about the size and does it matter? And he's too small. Too small.
But he's got chiseled abs.
Yeah.
It would be nice to see him get a little kiss at the end of his career, even though that guy in the shape of his body, he'd probably go for another 15.
I want to see a love triangle angle with him, Seth Rollins, and Becky Lynch. Former Flame of Becky Lynch, now married to Seth Rollins. They've had programs before, short ones. At least.
Great matches. There was a triple threat match at a WrestleMania in New Orleans that Miz was in. Balor is a really good worker. Another guy that can sell and make other guys look too good, probably to his own detriment. But with Finn, it's really the size.
Yep.
It's the size, and it doesn't stick out so much in New Japan. Doesn't even stick out all that much in NXT. It always sticks out when he's on the main roster, unless he's the Demon, and then then he's got these extra superpowers. But they've even kind of killed that character because that character's lost the last couple of times he's been out.
He's got a cool name too. His real name, Fergal Devitt.
Yeah.
Some guys have cooler real names.
Fergal.
Alter egos.
Yeah.
Like Trenton Breeze. Trenton Breeze, if he was ever a wrestler, he wouldn't even need to change his name.
The Young Lion.
The Young Lion. That's his alter ego.
Yeah. Great job, Pete. As always, I'm curious your thoughts. We got treated to a 3 p.m. Eastern start time on Monday Night Raw when they were in Belgium, and this was the debut of heel John Cena. We haven't had the opportunity to talk about it, but I'd like to give you first crack.
I just think the whole thing's getting played out at this point. I have no interest in it.
1 weekend and already getting played out. That's incredible.
Pete's in the New Japan NXT. So if you haven't
Yeah,
noticed,
he's
Pete
got
is
his
the
ear
purist
to
of
the
the forum.
NXT streets.
He's the purist
I'm
of the
saying
forum.
John Cena's played out. That whole thing in terms of his career at this point. We're on to the next.
Brandon, I see you in the comments. Yes, Straight Talk Wireless 400 in Homestead, Miami Motor Speedway. I will be out there. I got a garage pass this year. I maybe get to meet Kyle Larson. We'll see. We had a really awful interview with Christopher Bell on our show today. That was really awkward, and it was through no fault of Christopher Bell.
Why was it bad?
Because Dan called him the Iceman.
Is that not a nickname?
Apparently not. Apparently not. And Christopher Bell's like, that's the first time anybody's ever called me that.
Someone called me the Iceman, I'd be like, man, that's a cool nickname.
Cool.
Yeah,
I ended up calling him the Nice Man at the end of it because he was able to roll with the punches so well. But no, Dan kind of deflated there. But we get to run it back with Ryan Blaney later this week. But I will be out there on Sunday. Great time for local sports down here, and it's so great that the weather's cooperating. We got spring football. We got the Miami Open that I'm headed to tonight. We got the Fronton Friday night. Come out to the Magic City Fronton. Watch your Cessa Cyclones do battle. It's free to the public. Really cheap beers. It's a great place to spend a Friday night out there. And then Saturday we got Deftones, and Sunday we got Homestead.
Dude,
so
look at this. James
weekend.
Kane agrees with me. Says John Cena should have been gone 10 plus years ago and stayed gone. Things played out at this point.
What are your thoughts? Because I'm in wait and see mode on this John Cena story arc a little bit.
So I like the promo. I think it's going to be fine. I mean, I think Cena's good. Cena won me over for life when he had the match against Rob Van Dam in the, what's that, New York, the ballroom.
Oh, a one night stand in the Hammerstein Ballroom.
Hammerstein Ballroom. And he threw the towel into the crowd.
It was a great moment.
And then they threw it back at him. Pause. Threw it back. They threw it back at him, and he played it perfectly. That's next level kind of crowd control timing. I'm a big Cena guy. You know, my wife hates wrestling. She hates that her kids and her husband and her father, who is now estranged, all hate wrestling or all love wrestling. That's why she hates it. So, you know, she does have occasional outsider perspectives that change my view of people. And she heard John Cena's rapping, and she noted that John Cena stole his flow from Jadakiss. So if you listen to John Cena rap, follow it up, put Jadakiss on, and you will see the patterns and rhythms and the just general flow. Very, very similar.
He picked a good one.
He picked a good one. He has some good songs on his album, on his debut album. Chain Gang, tremendous. I'm a Bad, Bad Man.
Yeah, I like the beat on that one.
Oh, great. Phenomenal. Trademark.
The live performance on Spike TV. Incredible.
Spike TV.
A where were you moment.
That's it. And so, you know, people are speculating when he's going to go back to being the PhD of thugonomics. I don't know. I didn't see that happening when he did the promo. It didn't seem like he was going that direction.
The promo was interesting because it wasn't the direction that I was expecting. I expected him invoking The Rock, even Travis Scott. That was absent. We don't really know what his motivations still are there. So questions remain. He comes out in the same gear, still selling the same amount of merch. He's essentially the same guy, only worn down by the internet a little bit. And he's kind of positioned as a chicken bleep heel, which I know a lot of people don't really like, but what they're doing right now is actually like sticking to long-term storytelling, which is John Cena, a guy, his whole thing is, I can't win the big one anymore. I can't win these matches anymore. I don't really have a chance. And Cody's story is, I'm an uber confident champion that has gone through the greatest world champion ever in Roman Reigns. If you're going to be this kind of guy, I'm going to wipe the floor with you. And John Cena kind of played that role too. So it's also setting the table for John Cena to do something really nefarious and go extra dark if that's where they go with it. Or otherwise, he might just be a conventional chicken bleep heel. And that'll be a really interesting dynamic because that is actually how you get an appropriate reaction from the crowd. It's what we've credited Randy Orton with and Miz with. Get true natural heat. If I'm a bad guy, I want the fans to boo me. If John Cena comes out with a new song, a new look, and starts acting cool, the fans, considering how white bread Cody's character is and maybe a little stale, they'd start gravitating to John Cena. And then you won't really get a true dynamic at a WrestleMania, right? You'll have a bad guy being cheered by the crowd because they want to root for the cool thing. This is, if they keep this line, I'm fascinated to see where they go with it. They'll get babyface cheers for Cody and really natural heel reactions for John Cena. And that might be the way to go.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, he went with a kind of meta direction Is that the word? Like when he's
Yeah.
talking about, the fact that they booed him. They did boo him for so
Yeah.
many years. So it's all true.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and they booed him when he was trying to be good. So it's like,
Master, actually, our buddy Master Tesfazian said something interesting. Like, we're actually seeing these heel personas play out naturally in pop culture. Now, I'm not comparing Kanye to John Cena. Kanye is a heel for totally different reasons. Same, I think, to a degree with Drake. But you have these guys that
rapping is similar. I give Kanye the edge production.
Yeah. Well, John Cena's a noted rapper too. So maybe this
That's what I'm
is
saying. The
yeah.
rapping is similar,
Yeah.
but the production, I give the edge to Kanye.
But these were guys that the height of their powers played out on social media, and they were always kind of these polarizing guys that social media had to go at. And we're seeing with Drake and with Kanye for different reasons. There's mental illness there too. They reach their breaking points and they start going at the people that got them there. And I kind of like that angle to it. I didn't really think about it through that prism, and it really got me thinking to how this evolves. The Rock's going to get involved. They got to tie up this Travis Scott loose end, right? Otherwise, that's like incredibly random, right?
He's over, man. I was at my kids' field trip. They were all singing that Fiend song. It was crazy.
Yeah.
He's over. He's a star. No more D-listers for WWE, man. They got A-listers all across the board.
They also did like a really weird thing with Michael Cole, like being extra. And you wonder, like, does Cena do something really evil to Michael Cole? Cody issued a challenge. So can John Cena, this incarnation of John Cena, turn to what we thought was going to be the case when we last saw him at the Elimination pay-per-view, where he changed his facial structure by just being a heel, and he did really nefarious things? That wasn't the guy that showed up on Monday Night Raw, and it was unexpected. And I kind of like that it's unexpected, so I'm just going to sit back and enjoy the ride.
He was losing a lot before the heel turn, so I would like him to just embrace kind of the fact, hey, I'm old.
I have to cheat to win.
Spot. I have to cheat to win. What I'm visualizing is he's going to turn back face before he retires, before this year is done.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever it happens, whatever heel he's aligned with, let's say it's The Rock, let's say whoever the heel is at the time that he's aligned with, I can see him pushing that cameraman. What's the cameraman guy's name?
Oh, dude, I forget his name, but he
know
was singled out. Yeah.
Pushing that guy, and then Cena kind of going like good versus evil conflict and defending his boy, the cameraman. So the cameraman is going to be involved. Kind
of like the dynamic with Hollywood Hogan at WrestleMania 17. I think that's what you'll see towards the tail end of this. I do agree with you. I think he's going to turn right back to a baby face to get his proper send off. There's a ruthless aggression PLE emanating from Boston. Whether they turn him there for the goodbye or he's turned before that, I kind of like that they have these little runways that he can evolve this character. But I think that Cody's going to lose at WrestleMania, and then he goes away for a little bit as he refreshes that character a little bit. Backlash at St. Louis. What I'd like to see for this tail end is he had these great historical rivals. He has these great historical rivals on the roster right now, Randy Orton, Seth Rollins, and CM Punk. The dynamic was they were always like the heels, not necessarily with Punk. Sometimes he was the heel, but often it was babyface versus babyface. Have that inverted. You get to see Randy Orton in St. Louis against John Cena one last time, but this time John Cena's a bad guy. But I'd like to see him cross paths with The Miz one more time and button up all these loose ends on his story. Seems like he's going to have enough time to do it.
Yeah, I trust Cena. He knows what he's doing. Mm-hmm. He's not someone that like an Ultimate Warrior where they were like a phenomenon. They didn't know how to necessarily work the whole thing. Cena's a cerebral guy when it comes to this.
He got better in the ring as he got older too.
Oh yeah, he knows himself. He knows what he needs to do. I trust Cena. P, you pull up a picture of Jackson Cantwell a second ago. What's the story?
No, I just tweeted that out 30 minutes ago.
What did he do? Let's pull it up. Let's see what's going on. This is Jackson Cantwell, #1 player in the country, according to the composite, I believe.
Look at that beautiful blue sky.
Had a blast at the U the last 3 days. Thankful to everyone that
hosted me this week.
Okay, I
can't see cloud in the sky.
There it is. Look at the size.
Gorgeous.
Hey, I saw his dad at practice, man. His dad could take on Vader. His dad was jacked,
no
man.
Olympic
thrower. Check out Mr. Cantwell, man. The guy is a beast. Olympic thrower. Both of his parents were Olympic throwers. He's a very talented thrower as well. I heard Miami's got a great shot, man. I think Miami with the football side and the lifestyle sides is where they need to be. Track wise, it's not a storied program. It's like an Oregon. So this guy's got this guy's one of the best high school throwers in recent memory. But I do believe there's some connection to the throwing coach and the family. So we'll see how that goes. But I know on the football side, like the offensive line coaching side, and he likes Miami. all those things are favorable to us. His parents are, he's from Missouri. His parents are Olympians, so they've been around the world. It's not like small town people who don't necessarily like know what a place like Miami is, or they're concerned with it. I think that's going to be, the more I dig into this recruitment, I think that's going to be less of a problem and more of an advantage. Actually, the city. I think the question is going to be track. Can we get over that track hump? Because he is a really high-end thrower.
Well, the weather helped us out. That's for darn sure.
Oh, it was perfect.
I cleaned up my language big time here. I think I said a at one point instead of like a rear end. I just said rear end.
You're maturing a lot.
Trying to get you to monetize this.
You got you're in shape.
Yeah, that's maturing. Being in shape.
I think so. I think so. We got we're getting old. We got no other hobbies. What else are we gonna do? Oh, you got some hobbies now. You're branching out.
We're not talking about that. I'll see you guys next week. A nice little long show here.
I know. Issa's regretting this whole endeavor.
Issa, you're wrestler of the week next week. I'm in Disney World next week for spring break for my kids, so I'm sorry. I can probably come back, pop in on Friday.
Shout out to the Ruiz family. Issa, who's your favorite wrestler?
You can't name a wrestler?
Hulk Hogan. No.
Well, you called him Hawk Hogan,
Hawk
but also
Hogan.
just run on Google real quick.
Man,
the internet's coming for you.
What enduring legacy for Hogan, man. People born in 2002 still picking Hogan. But Pete was over Hogan as a youth, man. He was already watching Japanese wrestling and stuff like that.
Well, he's in the AFCONs chat. He can't root for Hulk Hogan.
Like and subscribe to the show. Go Canes.
Go Canes.
Hawk Hogan.